easier just to sit there. It's easier just to keep your fingers crossed. Don't let that happen. Don't let that be your default mode. Take action. Now, when I'm talking about characteristics, a lot of times people want to ask me, well, what's the most important characteristic for a leader to have? And for me, it's a very easy answer to give. The most important characteristic for a leader to have, and really for a person to have, is humility. And the reason I know this is because when we would fire a SEAL leader, when I was running that training and we would fire a SEAL leader, we would fire that SEAL leader not because they didn't know how to shoot their weapon or because they didn't know how to work a radio or they didn't know how to read a map. We would fire those SEAL leaders because they lacked humility. Because they lacked humility. Because think about what it does. Think about what it does to your mindset when you lack humility. First of all, you don't respect your competitors. You don't respect the enemy. And when you don't respect the enemy, guess what? You don't plan, you don't prepare, you cut corners. And when you cut corners and you don't plan and you don't prepare, that's when you get caught. And that stems from a lack of humility. There's no way the competitor could beat us. When you lack humility, you don't listen to anybody else because you think you already know everything. And when you think you already know everything, then you don't listen, you don't adapt, you don't change. You don't make adjustments. And when you don't make adjustments on the battlefield or in the business world, if you don't make adjustments, you will get crushed. And it's the same thing with somebody that lacks humility on a personal level. If you're not looking in the mirror and doing an assessment and finding out where you can improve every day to see where you can get better, if you're not doing that, if you're thinking, when you look in the mirror and you think, oh, man, that looks great, that means you're not trying to improve. You're not trying to get better. And the rest of the world is, and they will bypass you. So you have to stay humble. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is this idea, the first book that I wrote, Extreme Ownership. And this is the attitude, this is the mindset, the winning teams and the winning leaders. This is the attitude that they had. And this was so obvious for me to see when I was running that SEAL training. Because when I was running that SEAL training, I had the opportunity to see good SEAL leaders versus bad SEAL leaders. And the difference between a good SEAL leader and a bad SEAL leader is this attitude. And it would spread through his whole team. This is what it would look like. So if I had a bad SEAL leader coming through my training, a bad SEAL leader, and I'd send him and his platoon out on a training operation, and they would do horrible, and everyone would get shot with paintball, and they'd fail the mission, and I'd bring them back to base, and I'd bring them into the debriefing room, and I'd bring that platoon leader up to the front of the room, and I'd say, okay, Lieutenant, that was absolutely terrible. And the bad SEAL leader would stand up, and I'd say, well, what happened? What went wrong? And the bad SEAL leader would say, I'll tell you what went wrong. First of all, the assault team leader, you didn't bring enough people on that mission. You didn't do a good target study, so you didn't have enough people, and it took for you forever to clear the target. That's pathetic. And then you, mobility commander in charge of the Humvees, you didn't know where to come pick us up. That's embarrassing. And then you, sniper team leader, you never told me your position. You never reported where you were. That caused all kinds of confusion. So if we're going to do any better, you better figure out how to do your job. You better fix yourself, and you better square yourself away. And I'd be sitting there listening to that debrief. Anyone notice anything peculiar about that debrief? What is it, right? None of it was my fault. No, none of it was my fault. It was your fault. It was your fault. It was your fault. And what happens when I point my finger at you, or I point my finger at you, or I point my finger at anybody in this room, and I start blaming you for something that went wrong? What's your natural reaction going to be? What is it? You're going to get defensive. And when you get defensive, when someone gets defensive, they point their finger at someone else, and that person gets defensive and points their finger at someone else, and then that person points their finger at someone else. And what you end up with is a team where everyone on the team is pointing fingers at each other. No one is taking ownership of the problems, and therefore the problems don't get solved. And that team is never going to improve, and they certainly aren't going to become exceptional. Now, you compare that with a good SEAL leader. A good SEAL leader. And I'd send them out on a training operation with his platoon. And I would throw all kinds of problems at them, and they would do just as bad, and they would fail, and everyone would get shot with paintball, and I'd bring them back to base, and I'd bring them into the debriefing room, and I'd bring that platoon leader up to the front of the room, and I'd say, hey, Lieutenant, that was horrible. What went wrong? And the good SEAL leader would stand up and say, okay, let me tell you what I saw from my perspective. First of all, assault team leader, I didn't give you the people that you needed. I didn't make sure you understood how big that target was, and I should have given you more people. Next time, I'll get with you and make sure you have the people you need. And then mobility commander in charge of picking us up with the Humvees. Somehow you came to my brief that I'm responsible for, and I failed as a leader to convey to you the one piece of information that you needed. That's where to pick us up. Next time I'm going to get with you after the brief and make sure you know exactly where to pick us up. And then sniper team leader, I lost track of where you were. Probably my most important job as a battlefield leader is to know where all my team is, and I didn't know where you and your team was. So next time, I'm going to have some checkpoints along the way, and I'll track you so I will know where you are the whole time. Those are the things that I'm going to do different so we do a better job next time. And you might think that now the team now points their fingers back at me and say, you're damn right, Jocko, this is all your fault. But you know what? They don't do that. They don't do that. Instead, the assault team leader says, hey, boss, you got a lot of stuff on your mind. I rounded down the number of people I thought I was going to need. I'll never make that mistake again. And the mobility team leader says, hey, boss, there's only one piece of information that I needed, and I didn't have it. Not only did I not have it, no one on my team had it. That is not your fault. Next time, I will confirm I know exactly where to pick you all up. And then the sniper team leader says, hey, boss, the reason you didn't know where I was is because I didn't know where I was. I got lost. Next time I'll bring a GPS, I'll triangulate my position, and I will report exactly where I am. And now you can see what we have is a team where everyone on the team is taking ownership of the problems, and therefore the problems get solved. And this team is going to improve every single time they do a mission, and this team is going to become exceptional. Now, we're going to get to Q&A in a minute. Before we get to Q&A, I want to preemptively answer some of your questions. When I talk about this stuff, there's always someone comes up to me after I get done. They say, hey, Jocko, yeah, I really like what you had to say today. I really like what you said about extreme ownership, too. And I really wish my team was there to listen, because if my team would just take ownership, we'd be good to go. And then there's someone else that comes in and says, hey, I really like what you said today. I really liked what you said about extreme ownership, and I really hope my boss was listening, because if my boss would just take ownership, we'd be good to go. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not talking about your team, and I'm not talking about your boss. I'm talking about you. It starts with you. And if you start to take ownership of what's going on in your world, if you start to take ownership of what's going on in your world, other people on your team will start to take ownership as well, and this will spread, and it will become the culture inside your team. Now, I know as I say that, I know there's someone sitting in the back there that's like, oh yeah, Jocko thinks everyone's going to take ownership. He doesn't know about Fred over here, because Fred never wants to take ownership of anything. And you know what? That's actually correct. It's actually right. Every team, in a SEAL platoon, in a business, in a company, there's always a small percentage of people that don't want to step up and don't want to take ownership. But I can promise you this, and I can promise it to you because I've seen it over and over and over again. Those few people that don't want to take ownership, they're going to exist. But the people that do want to take ownership, the people that do want to step up, the people that do want to lead, those people will absolutely steamroll the people that don't. And this will become the culture inside your team, and you will become unstoppable.